I turned 108 years old last March, and I'll tell you something that's going to make every dietitian in America spit out their kale smoothie. I haven't eaten a vegetable in 30 years, not a single one. My name is Ruth Elaine Calloway. I was born on March 14th, 1917, in a farmhouse outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. Woodrow Wilson was president. The United States hadn't entered the First World War yet. There were no commercial radio stations. Sliced bread hadn't been invented. I predate sliced bread, honey. Let that sink in for a moment. I have outlived 4 husbands, all good men, every last one of them. I have 31 grandchildren, 67 great-grandchildren, and as of last Thanksgiving, 12 great-great-grandchildren. My oldest grandchild, Patricia, just turned 72. Patricia eats kale every single day. Patricia has had 2 hip replacements and a heart valve procedure. I'm not saying those things are connected. I'm just saying. I still live in my own home. I don't use a walker. I read without glasses. Well, I use a magnifying glass for the newspaper print because they keep making it smaller, not because my eyes gave out. My mind is sharp as a tack. My doctor told me last month that my blood work looks like someone in their mid-60s. He went over the results 3 times. I told him not to look so confused. It was unbecoming of a medical professional. I wake up every morning at 5:30. I make black coffee, strong, no sugar, no cream. I sit on this Tennessee porch and watch the sun rise over the ridge, same as I've done for most of my adult life. Some mornings I think about all the people I've loved and lost. Some mornings I just listen to the birds. Life is good. Life has always been good, even when it was hard. Now I want to be clear. I did not grow up without vegetables. Lord, no. I grew up on a farm. Vegetables were not optional. Vegetables were survival. My mother grew pole beans, butter beans, sweet corn, okra, squash, collard greens, mustard greens, turnips, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, and more. We canned everything we could in the fall. We ate what we grew, and we were grateful for every bit of it. I ate vegetables my entire childhood and into my adult years. I cooked them for my family. I put green beans on the table every Sunday for decades. I made sweet potato pie at Thanksgiving. I grew my own tomatoes well into my 70s, so I am not someone who was born hating vegetables, or someone who never tried them, or someone who doesn't understand what they taste like. I know exactly what they taste like. I chose to stop eating them. There is a difference. My first husband, Earl, died in 1954. My second husband, Gene, we were married for 31 years before cancer took him in 1986. I was 69 years old when Gene passed, and somewhere in that grief, somewhere in that long year after he died, I started thinking about what I actually liked to eat, not what I was supposed to eat, not what I had been cooking for a family for 50 years. What I, Ruth Elaine Calloway, actually wanted to put in my mouth on any given morning, afternoon, or evening. And the answer surprised me. I have never particularly enjoyed vegetables. There, I said it, after almost 7 decades of eating them, because that's what you do, because that's what's good for you, because that's what my mother grew and my doctor recommended and the food pyramid insisted upon. I admitted it to myself for the very first time. I don't like the texture of cooked vegetables. Never did. The mushiness of overcooked green beans, the stringy quality of collard greens no matter how long you cook them, the way zucchini goes to absolute mush if you look at it wrong. I ate these things for 69 years because I was told to, and because I was feeding a family, and because that's what good women of my generation did. I don't like raw vegetables much either, if I'm being honest. Salads always seemed to me like a plate of apology, like food that was embarrassed to be food. I'd look at a big green salad and think, is this really what we've come to? Is this dinner? So in 1987, the year after Jean died, I was living alone for the first time in my adult life, and I thought, Ruth, you are 69 years old. You have survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, the loss of 2 husbands, raising 5 children mostly by yourself, and more heartache than most people see in 3 lifetimes. You can eat whatever you want, and what I wanted was meat. Eggs, butter, cheese, white bread, coffee, sweets, pie occasionally. I wanted the foods I had always secretly loved most. The foods that felt like warmth and comfort and home, not the foods that felt like obligation. Now, I didn't make this decision because I read some diet book or heard some theory. No Atkins, no carnivore diet, none of that. I'd never heard of any of it. I just listened to my body. My body said, Ruth, you want a pork chop and 2 eggs and a slice of buttered toast. And I said, all right, body, let's go. People always want to know exactly what I eat, so I'll tell you. I keep it simple because I've learned that the older you get, the more you appreciate simplicity in all things. Breakfast is always black coffee and eggs, usually 2 eggs fried in butter, sometimes scrambled. I might have a piece of toast, white bread, real butter, none of that margarine nonsense. Sometimes a slice of bacon, a few times a week. Lunch is usually something small, a piece of cheese, some crackers, maybe a slice of ham or leftover meat, sometimes a bowl of beef soup I've made from scratch, bone broth, chunks of beef, some noodles, no vegetables, just meat and broth and noodles. Dinner is the meal I put the most thought into. I like a pork chop. I like a chicken breast, roasted simply with salt and pepper and butter. I like beef, a good steak now and then, or a hamburger patty. I might have mashed potatoes. Yes, potatoes. Potatoes are not vegetables to me. They're a starch. I know botanically speaking they're classified differently, but in my mind and in my kitchen, a potato is a potato, not a vegetable. It's a side dish. It goes with meat. I eat real dairy, whole milk sometimes, full-fat cheese, real butter on everything. I don't worry about fat. I never have. Fat tastes good. Fat keeps you full. Fat, in my experience, has never done me any harm. I have something sweet most days, a piece of pie on special occasions, a cookie sometimes, a little dish of ice cream in the summertime. Life is too short to never have ice cream, and I say that as someone who has had a very long life. I drink black coffee in the morning and water the rest of the day. I drink 1 small glass of sweet tea sometimes in the afternoons because I'm from Tennessee and sweet tea is not optional. It is a way of life. That's it. That's what I eat. Meat, eggs, dairy, bread, potatoes, and occasional sweets, no vegetables. Haven't had one in 30 years. Don't miss them. Don't plan on starting. I've had a lot of doctors over the years, young ones mostly, because I keep outliving the older ones. Every single one of them has had something to say about my diet. Dr. Morrison, who was my physician through most of the 90s, would hand me printed pamphlets every visit, the food pyramid, the importance of fiber and antioxidants. He'd look at me very seriously and say, Ruth, you really must eat more vegetables. I'd smile and say, thank you, doctor, and go home and make myself a pork chop. He retired. I didn't. Dr. Hendricks took over from him, she once said. Mrs. Calloway, I'm genuinely alarmed by your diet. You should, by all medical understanding, be experiencing significant health problems. I said, well, maybe medical understanding needs updating. She did not find that amusing. I found it very amusing. My current doctor, Dr. Patel, is the most pragmatic of the bunch. He runs my blood work every 6 months. He checks my heart, my bones, my cognitive function. He shakes his head a lot. But he also said something to me about 6 months ago that I thought was remarkably honest for a physician. He said, Ruth, I can't argue with your results. Your inflammation markers are excellent. Your cholesterol ratios are in a healthy range. Your cognitive scores are outstanding. Whatever you're doing, something is working. He still recommends I add vegetables, but he said it the way you'd suggest a different route to someone who'd already made it to the destination just fine on their own. Last year, a nutritionist named, well, I'll just call her the nutritionist, she came out to interview me for a research project. She sat right here where you're sitting. She had a notepad and everything, and she went through what I eat. And she kept looking more and more distressed, like I was describing something morally troubling. She said, you understand that without vegetables, you're likely deficient in multiple vitamins and minerals? I said, honey, I understand the theory, but I'm 107 years old. How deficient can I be? She wrote something in her notepad. I suspect it was something like patient uncooperative. I prefer to think of myself as evidence. Now, I want to be honest with you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not telling you to do what I do. I'm 108 years old, and I'm an outlier in every way imaginable, and I know that. I'm not prescribing a lifestyle. I'm describing mine. But I do have some thoughts on why I might have done all right without vegetables for all these years. Take these for what they are, the musings of a very old woman sitting on her porch. First, I think stress kills people, and I have always been remarkably unbothered. This is partly temperament. I was born with an easy nature, and partly choice. At some point in your 70s, you realize most of what people worry about isn't worth worrying about. Things generally work out or they don't, and fretting doesn't change them. I stopped fretting somewhere around 1982 and have not looked back. Second, I sleep. I have always been a good sleeper. 8 hours a night, more if I feel like it, naps when I want them. People do not take sleep seriously enough. I believe sleep is more important than anything you eat. Third, I move. Not strenuously. I'm not running marathons, but I walk every day. I do things around the house. I don't sit still for hours on end. Gentle, consistent movement every day of my life. Fourth, I eat real food. Whatever you think about vegetables, what I eat is real, not processed, not artificial. I cook from scratch. Real butter, real meat, real eggs from a neighbor's chickens, real food cooked simply. I think that matters more than which particular real foods you choose. Fifth, and this is the one nutritionists really don't like, I eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full. Always have. I have never counted a calorie in my life. I've never eaten something because the clock said mealtime if my body wasn't asking for food. I listened to my body, and my body, apparently, has known what it was doing all along. I've watched a century of diet trends come and go, and I mean that literally, a century. In my lifetime, I have seen low fat become the gospel, then fat become fine, then carbs become the enemy, then carbs be rehabilitated, then red meat be condemned, then red meat reconsidered. The only constant I've noticed is that the advice keeps changing. The experts keep changing their minds. What was going to kill you last decade is the superfood of this decade, I don't say this to be cynical. I believe the scientists and doctors are doing their best, but I also believe the human body is more complicated than any theory about it, and that individual variation is real and largely ignored in the push for universal recommendations. I am an individual, a very old one. And I have lived my individual life in my individual body and eaten the food that made my individual body feel good. And here I am. Maybe I'm lucky. Probably I'm lucky. Genetics plays a role I'll never fully understand. My mother lived to 93. My grandmother made it to 88. There's something in my bloodline that leans toward longevity. I know that. But I also think happiness matters. Contentment matters. Eating food you enjoy and feeling satisfied and peaceful after a meal, that matters. The pleasure of food is not a trivial thing. It is not a guilty indulgence to be minimized. Eating something that makes you happy, that reminds you of your mother's kitchen, that feels like comfort and warmth, I think that nourishes something the vitamins and minerals can't measure. Every time I sat down to a plate of food I actually wanted, I was happy. For 30 years, every single meal, I was eating what I loved. And love, in all its forms, is good for you. I am sure of this. Let me tell you about some meals I remember. I remember Christmas morning when my children were small, when we didn't have much money, and I would make a big pan of scrambled eggs and biscuits, and we'd have it with whatever canned ham we could afford. Simple food, modest food, but the table was full of children I loved, and everything tasted like abundance. I remember last Thanksgiving. My great-great-granddaughter Emma, 4 years old, sat on my lap after dinner and fell asleep right there against my chest. 4 years old, and me, 107. That is a span of time that takes your breath away. I held her and thought, I have been here for all of this wild, tender, heartbreaking, and beautiful human life, and I am grateful. I am so deeply grateful. Food was always part of those memories, not because of what nutrients it contained, but because of what it meant. Because meals are where life happens, where families gather and arguments get resolved and jokes get told and grief gets shared and love gets expressed without words. What you eat matters less, I think, than the fact that you eat together, that you sit down, that you put down your work and your worry and your phone and you share a meal with people you love. That is nutrition of a kind no laboratory can measure. People give me a lot of advice. They have since I turned about 95 and started becoming what people call remarkable. Before that, I was just an old lady. After 95, you become remarkable, and people feel entitled to tell you what you should be doing differently. Well-meaning people have sent me supplements in the mail. Vitamin C, vitamin D, magnesium, some things I can't even pronounce. I thank them kindly and put the bottles on a shelf. The shelf is getting quite full. People tell me to eat more leafy greens. I understand why they tell me this. They've been told it helps with cognition, with heart health, with inflammation. I understand the reasoning. I just don't care to follow the advice. I am 108 years old. My cognition is fine. My heart is fine. My inflammation markers are, as the doctor said, excellent. Perhaps for me, the leafy greens were never necessary. Perhaps I am simply built differently. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. People tell me to be careful not to eat too much saturated fat. I have been not being careful about saturated fat for 38 years now. At this point, I think the fat has made its position clear. It is not interested in harming me. I am not interested in avoiding it. We have reached an understanding. I'm not trying to convince you not to eat vegetables. If you love vegetables, eat your vegetables. If they make you feel good, wonderful. If you feel genuinely better with a salad in your life, then for goodness sake, eat the salad. I have no interest in talking anyone out of their preferred way of eating. What I want you to take away from my story is something different, something simpler. I want you to know that you probably know your body better than any guideline does. Not the guidelines of this year, not the guidelines of 5 years from now. The experts will update their recommendations again and again, as they should, as science advances and understanding deepens. But your body is giving you information right now, in real time, that no study can replicate. I want you to know that longevity is complicated and personal and not reducible to a checklist. I tick some of the longevity boxes and ignore others. I sleep well, I move daily, I have low stress, I eat real food, I have strong social connections, I have a reason to get up in the morning. Those things seem to matter. Whether those things plus broccoli would have made me live longer than those things without broccoli, I genuinely cannot tell you. I want you to know that pleasure is not the enemy of health. Enjoying your food, eating what comforts you, sitting down to a meal that makes you happy. I believe those things contribute to well-being in ways we don't fully account for in our medical models. The stress of eating foods you dislike, of constantly monitoring and restricting and calculating. I wonder sometimes if that stress costs something too. I want you to know that it's okay to be an outlier. The world loves an average, loves a rule, loves a universal recommendation. But you are not a universal. You are a particular human being with a particular history and a particular body and a particular life. Your particular mileage may vary considerably. And finally, I want you to know that how you eat is just one small part of a life. It matters, but it matters alongside 100 other things. The love you give and receive, the sleep you allow yourself, the way you handle loss and grief, the quality of your friendships. Whether you can sit on a porch in the morning and watch the light change and feel the simple pleasure of being alive, thinking, this is enough, this life, this has been enough. I'll be 109 in March. Lord willing, I'll be sitting right here on this same porch, having this same conversation with anyone who wants to hear it. I've got nowhere to be and nothing to rush toward. I'm just here, living my life, eating my eggs and my pork chops, drinking my black coffee, watching the sun come up over the same Tennessee ridge. It's been coming up over my whole life long. The dietitians can lose their minds all they want. I've made my peace with my plate. Now, if you'll excuse me, it's almost time for lunch. I've got a pork chop thawing on the counter.